And I'm thrilled to have Jule here. She is an amazing person. She hails from our, yeah, welcome her. I see some claps going on. Got your claps and your jazz hands ready for Jule. And Jule is in Qualicum Beach. And I'm just going to find where I've got the thing that says a little bit about her amazing, she is a member of the Federation of BC Writers, of course, and she's a feature here. And I just have to find the piece about Jule. Okay.
Jackie, I can introduce me in part of my thing.
All I want the chance to say the name of your book, The Hot Chocolate and Decadent Cake Society, and a mix of both prose and poetry, advocating for those with dementia and those who have chosen medical assisted dying, as well as for emotional and spiritual nourishing of both patients and loved ones. I love that. The Hot Chocolate and Decadent Cake Society. Please welcome, won't you?
Wow, I like the name. It's not even about cake or dessert. Oh.
I know, it's so sweet. Okay, come on, Jule. Come up to the mic.
Hi. Thanks for that introduction. And if later you want to ask me how that title came about, I'll share that with you. But I wanted to start off just by saying, like, I'm always in awe of people who write and can write a poem that's as long as the one that we heard. It was wonderful. And also to hear about the logging and your story. I have your book, and that'll be my husband and my reading in the winter. So I'm looking forward to doing that, Jackie. We just take the evenings and, you know, read for an hour or whatever it is. Yeah, so looking at that. You know, it was actually 4 years ago that I was at Char's Landing, and I read from my first book, and it was called Dancing into Reunion, and it was a Haibun memoir, and it was adoption. The theme was adoption. And that was a very, very special night for me. And it was a small group, again, very intimate, you know, just like it is tonight. In 2017, my second book was published, and it's called Reflections, an Inward Journey. And that is all poetry, but it's small, short little poems. And then the book that Jackie introduced, The Hot Chocolate and Decadent Cake Society, is really a memoir. And that's the one I would like to do some reading with for this evening. And, you know, in the last year and a bit, I've started to think of myself as the performing artist in using my poems, my personal stories, the songs and writings, okay, that I've done, and doing those to small groups, maybe maximum of 15. And it's sort of more of an intimate setting. And I'd like to look at the theme inspired by nature, seasoned by life. And today, my reading is actually seasoned by life. So and I also wanted to say that I have a book that's coming out at the end of September, I think. It looks like it's going to be ready for print then. It's another memoir, and it's in poetry and prose, but this time it's a collaboration with my niece Kashmir, who is at VIU, but she's actually in Ontario right now doing online, and she's enrolled in visual arts and global studies. So yeah, and the proceeds from that book are going to go to this developing young artist. So we're really excited about that. But to continue on, as a segue into my reading, and here is, actually, you can see that picture over here, the face, that was Kashmir. Kashmir did that. That was one of her projects. So I just do that. But the Hot Chocolate and Decadent Cake Society, this is what it looks like. And as I was saying, a segue into this is to give you an opportunity to reflect a little bit. I would like to ask you to think about 3 questions, how you would answer them. And actually it's a small group, so depending on time, we could, you know, get 1 or 2 responses from people. I thought with a big group, we can't go into breakout rooms, so it doesn't work. But anyway, to give it a little bit of a try, I'd like you to think about what quality of life is for you personally. How would you define that? And I don't need answers now unless you want to, but just Think about it a little bit. Quality of life. If you were madly writing, what would you write? It's new doing it this way for me because I don't know who's ready, but I just want to know if I've given you a little bit of time, at least just to think about it, okay? And that's the essence today, and the importance. And one thing I might mention is that quality of life depends on what stage of life you're in too. If you're a youngster, you're a teenager, you're a young adult, a working adult, perhaps a parent, perhaps retired. That may all factor into how you would define what quality of life is for you. The second question that I would like you to think about is, what would jeopardize quality of life for you? Okay. What would make life perhaps not worth living? You know, many of us might think of diseases, okay? But what about those of us who are the age that we are now? You walk outside, you know, you're on your bicycle, and all of a sudden you're hit by a car and you're brain damaged. You no longer can take care of yourself. It's easy to think of a debilitating disease, but taking it closer to home for all of us, okay? Just something to think about. Those two questions then might make you think about, okay, what then if my quality of life is compromised to the extent that there is nothing that I want, okay, or this is how I'm feeling? What are the choices that are available to me? Okay, what can still give me a sense of control? What choice would you make, or would you like to be able to make? And the answer to that is a segue, in a sense, into the Hot Chocolate and Decadent Cake Society. This is a story, it's a memoir, and it's a snapshot of the first year following my husband's diagnosis with Alzheimer's. And it also speaks to his choice of wanting medical assistance in dying made before he is unable to make an informed choice. And that is the journey that we find ourselves on. And in many ways, we're really very blessed. We do have each other and we do support each other in this. So I'd like to read a little bit from the Hot Chocolate and Decadent Cake Society. The subtitle is Alzheimer's and the Choice for Made. And it's a memoir, as Jackie said, in poetry and prose. October 2018. I need to caution you that the Hot Chocolate and Decadent Cake Society is not one where membership is a cause for rejoicing. That being said, allow me to take you back to the beginning. October 2017. Comfortably settled on the couch, reading Smoke Jumper, I hear, "Where are my pajamas? I can't find them." Walking into the bedroom, I see my husband reaching toward the clothes hanging in his closet. "Around the corner, in the other closet on the shelf, where they always are." Fear scrapes its finger along hollows, unsettling my insides. The cuckoo lets me know it's now 2 a.m, the cuckoo clock. My mind is in a scary place. It keeps ruminating on all that I have been denying. Insulating self, a choice with a price. Sleep still eludes me as I struggle with what to say in the morning. Who can I reach out to? My mind creates a list of friends, which I immediately dismiss, knowing how their lives might be full already. He awakes, we talk. I remember my confusion, but I did find those pajamas. No longer content to be ignored, this elephant trumpets for more attention. January 2018. An appointment at the Brain Health Center in Vancouver confirms our suspicions. The hope that brain research pursued with this center might create a way forward rapidly dissolves. Although anticipated, Alzheimer's diagnosis still unreal, surreal. Oh, come back in a year. A referral will be sent to a geriatric psychiatrist to discuss the possibility of medication. We strongly advise that you ensure your affairs are in order while you are still able. Oh, thank you for your advice. Medication, however, is not an option we choose to consider. Cast off and adrift, Alzheimer's Solution, a lifeline of hope. And Alzheimer's Solution is a book by Dean and Asha Char, both doctors. Okay, it's going to move ahead just a little bit here. March 2018, the Alzheimer's Society series, Shaping the Journey of Dementia, does not meet our needs. My husband introduces himself saying, I have been recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's. When my quality of life deteriorates and before I am no longer deemed capable of giving informed consent, I want the choice of maid. Oh, uncomfortable silence, hanging response. Not a choice for dementia. Courageously lobbied, pioneers in a league of their own. Right of choice, Bill C-14. A message from our family physician, lawyer, and Alzheimer's Society suggests that dementia does not fit the criteria for MAID. The tourniquet of unbearable stress resulting from hearing this message tightens. Despair and depression, soulmates, conceived when hope seems lost. 2018. A community forum on MAID held in Parksville the evening of April 19th provided information on the medical, legal, and spiritual aspects of MAID. Dr. David Robinson, MAID lead for Vancouver Island Health spoke on the medical perspective. His presentation would unknowingly offer a pathway to hope. Relevant information, a beacon of light, providing direction. A call to Dr. Robinson's office puts us in contact with Roseanne Bethune, MAID Intake Nurse Coordinator for Vancouver Island Health. Roseanne compassionately informs us that those with dementia may meet the criteria for MAID as long as they are deemed competent of giving informed consent. She also asks, do you need the contact number for a doctor on our MAID team? Thank you so very much. We already have the name of the doctor we would like to contact. Stress talons released, hope reignited, sense of control regained. Okay, just move ahead a little bit here. November 2018, the cruelty of Bill C-14, that's the bill that made MAID legal, and its fixation on informed consent at the last minute, is that it forces an individual to die earlier than necessary and before the chosen time. Sadly, this was the situation for Audrey Parker from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Challenged with stage 4 breast cancer and concerned that pain and medication would compromise her capacity for consent, Audrey felt forced to do just that. In dying, she advocated that signed advance requests illegal. Rigidity in a system sabotages the need for compassion. Emotional and spiritual support is needed by those who have chosen MAID and by those who through this choice will lose or have lost a loved one. Such support might just be addressed through the Hot Chocolate and Decadent Cake Society. Imagine a nurturing environment where tears, laughter, hugs, hot chocolate, and even decadent cake are all part of the healing. Kind of like that death cafe that you hear about. Imagine this too, this idea spreading, the Hot Chocolate and Decadent Cake Society, springing up all over Vancouver Island and perhaps even beyond. And in the words of Helen Keller, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. I would like to add a poem to this in the same theme. And again, the book is written from my perspective in many ways, okay, being the care companion to my husband. And there are a lot of things that people who are care companions deal with. We know that, just as there are a lot for the person challenged with whatever it is. And I couldn't sleep about 2 weeks ago. Words kept going in my head. I had to get up and it was 2 o'clock in the morning and I haven't done that for a while. Voices in my head puncture serenity with what ifs. What if I fall? Or what if I fall ill when we are away? How are we going to get back? What if I'm unable to drive back on an outing? Who will be there to help? What if I'm hospitalized with COVID? How will he manage? Better still, what if I die? Who will walk with him on his journey towards MAID? Punctuating serenity, voices in my head. They don't want to stop. And I'd like to finish with a song. And I wrote this towards the end of last year and keep working on it a bit. And it's called Finally, I Named You. And I think from the reading I've done, you'll have a pretty good understanding of what some of the things that come up in the song. But I'd like to say that I think all of us are familiar with that saying, hey, it's the elephant in the room. Well, for me, dementia is the mammoth in the room, okay? Or was the mammoth in the room. So the song, Finally, I Named You. You're raking tusks across my mind, tusks across my mind, so cruel, so unkind, these tusks across my mind. Finally I named you, now I know you, no longer can you hide. Finally I named you, now I know you, no longer can you hide. Knowing your unease tore at my heart, feeling this unease was tearing me apart. Window of informed consent, narrowing from the start, narrowing from the start. Finally I named you, now I know you, no longer can you hide. Back in the driver's seat, despair changed to peace. The moment that you knew MAID was an option too. Now there are many supporting this choice for you, this choice for you. Finally I named you, now I know you, no longer can you hide. I'm here beside you, supporting made your choice. Forward together, adding my voice. Quality of life is a right, advanced requests must be a choice. They must be a choice. Finally I named you, now I know you, no longer can you hide. So my beloved friend, until you choose to go, we'll walk together, later tears can flow. We'll walk together until you choose to go, until you choose to go. Finally I named you, now I know you, dementia no longer do you hide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jule, for that
Oh, awesome song.
touching.
Yeah.
And what an important book.
Mhm.
Difficult memoir, but a difficult experience.
And it's not, it sounds difficult, but you know, I didn't read all the sections, okay? The sections where, yeah, now life, you know, life is really precious, right? You live your moments, and this is exactly, you know, what we've really tried to do. But if I can say, I told you that I would tell you where that title came from. I was in the kitchen one evening, and my husband loves hot chocolate and he loves decadent cake. And how many of you are familiar with the Guernsey Literary Society and hot potato pie? Okay,
Yeah.
peeled potato pie. All of a sudden, you know, those things all came together, and I thought, I know the title of my book, and that's how that came.
That's lovely. So traditionally, we have an opportunity to have a bit of a Q&A, and in this lovely house concert setting, you know, we have a chance of maybe addressing kind of almost every question that comes up, which is fantastic. So if you're up for a little Q&A, we'll talk, we'll ask. I have one question. And
ask whatever you want, okay? I'm really comfortable, all right?
What is the name of your new book that is coming out in September?
It's called The Shades of Loss, and it's a memoir in photography, poetry, and prose. And the format will be very similar to what I just read, except that I challenged my niece to find a nature photograph that she'd taken that would kind of reflect or get the essence of what the text was. And I think she's done that really well.
How lovely. Okay, that sounds interesting. Do we have another question?
Don't be afraid to ask questions, okay? Nothing's too personal to ask,
Okay,
all right?
no
I'm pretty with it out there.
All right.
Well, I had a question.
Yeah.
Was your family comfortable with those decisions you made around MAID? Because for the last 2 years, every 6 months, I renew my request for medical assistance in dying. And it will be for possibly some form of cognitive impairment or dementia. And I was very fortunate that my wife and all of my family and so on are very supportive, but I was told that you need to keep renewing your commitment to that.
Okay, one of the things that in the book that I talk about is that back in 2018, okay, we did find a MAID provider, and she's a wonderful doctor who lives in Courtenay, because Wayne has a cognitive degenerative disease.
Right.
You need to have a second opinion, you know, be followed by geriatric psychiatrist, right? And we were very fortunate to have a geriatric psychiatrist that would take us on. He's a wonderful man, and so for every 3 months for the past 2 years, since July 2018, Wayne has his appointments. We both go to that appointments. First with the our geriatric psychiatrist. And the big thing is, you know, he and have some wonderful discussions. And there is some testing that goes the week or two before one of his team comes out and does the mini mental. I believe that's what it's called. And yeah, and he just affirms, you know, yeah, you know, Mr. Briese, you are capable of making your decisions, right? So it was a new experience for him, if I could say that too. And yeah, so we feel very blessed, you know, with that. And as you say, it's basically Wayne and I. All right. We don't, I have a daughter that lives in Ontario, but that was, you know, through adoption, you know, through reuniting with her after, you know, adopting her out. And so it's really us. And throughout our lives, we've always kind of looked at quality of life when you have people that you know that have a serious, let's say cancer, for example, and are going through their 5th chemotherapy. You sort of think, okay, what would I be doing? All right. And I think the important thing is, and I try and say this all the time, and I haven't said it yet, is that choice is individual choice. No one should be making any choices for us. And there was it was just recently in the news, this one woman, the wife of a husband who had been approved for MAID, took it to court to say, no, she didn't want this, and it was overruled. And that's a very sad thing. And you know yourself, David, that I'm sure it's really, it's hard enough, but the things that happen, the joy that can come out of that, I mean, you can speak to that. I can't speak to that for you. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does. I'm very glad that you have that access and that you have those repeat examinations periodically, because a record of that is going to be very significant.
Yes.
When the time comes. And so I also have a geriatrist who will perform the procedure for me. For me, it's besides the debilitation and all of that thing, it's being a burden on my family. Mm-hmm. And we've certainly seen in the pandemic that the quality of care in care homes that you might transition into before that possibility is so egregious. It's so sad. It's almost criminal. I
agree.
The way our public health system has not really provided that for the aging Canadian population.
I was going to say, if you're interested, you can get my email, and you know, we can correspond and chat a bit, even on the phone, or maybe even meet at some point.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind exchanging the occasional email.
Yeah, because I have there's some contacts. Like there's a Ron Posno who was on Sunday Morning edition a couple of years ago, and he is a real proponent. And I mean, he is challenged with MCI, okay, mild cognitive impairment, and he is a real spokesperson for you know, wanting changes made. And we've become really good friends. I mean, he lives in Ontario, right? But hey, it's been great. And so I think we need to, and especially in the light of C7, the amendments to MAID, I think we should all have an interest in that. I would like to see that. But anyway.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And yeah, let's exchange emails.
Okay.
Wow. This happens a lot. Yeah, please, Bruce. What do you got?
Yeah. First of all, God bless you and your efforts in that book. Must be and should be read by most people just for their own advice, shall we say.
Thank you.
Because, you know, there are things in life that wind up being very overwhelming, and whatever supports you can acquire, that's better. My story over the Clackwood issue is nowhere near yours, absolutely nowhere near. To me, it was the biggest thing that shattered my life. Okay. You know, my hopes, dreams, aspirations, and what I'd built. So that's why I want to write this book on my life in the logging industry, to get a proper story out and a helpful story, I hope, to people. The other part of it was, as we're growing up, we acquire so goddamn much stuff that changes our life, forms our life, and controls what happens teens, 20s, 30, and on. I would like to have that kind of a start because youth needs to know a whole bunch of things. It's simpler to learn from stories and books and elders than it is to have your parts of your, your damaged, accident, whatever. And certainly when you asked the 3 questions, that's what got me, was the ability to pass on experience and knowledge to those youth. And the second one, jeopardize the life aspiration, is that no one listens. Where you get the obstructions, and the supports in life, of course, are you with your husband and your husband with you. And that's what I'd like to get across in some form of writing to youth, young people. To me, the biggest example of that right now is that they're all glumming together, and we're going to have a bigger pandemic than ever. But certainly, they should be able to, and if we can keep forcing ourselves to write these stories and advices and counsels and have them there, maybe nothing will happen, but it sure makes us feel better that maybe we tried.
Bruce, I'm so glad that you're keeping up with your memoir. I really am. And maybe what we need to do sometime soon is to have you be one of our local features. I would love that. And I'd love to sit down and chat with you a little bit about what your goals are with publishing and who you're, how you're making those connections and stuff. But that's up ahead, and we'll have a good chat. Another house concert, another chat. And this is really nice. This is deeply personal stuff we're talking about here. If there was 25 people in this room, it wouldn't be nearly as fun. I love that sweatshirt, Carl. It says, "Life is worth living." That's wonderful. Well, as long as we're eking some joy out of it, I say it is, right?
My cup says deal with it.
Deal with it. Just deal with it.
Right.
I love that. Now, I put here the name of a book. I just interviewed June Hutton and Tony Wanless a couple weeks ago, and they have a memoir coming out about Tony's their journey into Tony's young onset Alzheimer's.
Okay.
And it's a remarkable book. I read it, and it was so amazing. I'm going to put the audio up really soon. I might not get the video up soon, but I'm going to put the audio up so people can listen to that. But a pretty remarkable story. I think it's a good time for us to turn ahead. And any other crushing questions for Jule before we turn to our last performer? I don't see any hands up, so we're going to move ahead. And thank you again, Jule. That's wonderful. We really appreciate you sharing these stuff. And obviously, it's evoked some responses here. So the right people were in this room. I'm convinced.
Well, I think that's what's important.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, our final